So in a case like this is why I need the zeros, because I have to borrow if I'm going to subtract this by hand. The way that I do my borrowing is I go all the way over as far left as possible, and I borrow all at once, and then I subtract all at once. So I can't take 2 from nothing. I can't take 3 away from nothing. I can't take 6 away when I only have 5. So I'm going to look at this here as 14 and 7. I can do that.
Ms. Walker, can you share your screen one more time?
Sure. Let me know if you can see it, Aaron.
No, not yet.
Okay.
All right, here it comes.
Okay. That makes it better or worse. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start all the way over here and subtract this as if it was 14 minus 7. So I'm going to pull 1 off of 14, and now that's 13. The one that I just pulled off can then be put in the next place value so that I have enough to do that. But I still need to borrow, so I'm going to take 1 off of the 15 I just created. That becomes 14. Now the 1 is going to go to the next place value. Now that's 10. Take 1 off of that. Put it to the next place value, and now I have what I need. So I'm gonna just write this 10 up here so you can see it a little bit clearer. I have everything I need now. I can just do all of the subtraction at once. So 10 minus 2, 9 minus 3, 14 minus 6, and 13 minus 7. Bring down your decimal point, and that's it. And then, of course, you can plug it into your calculator, make sure you did it okay. 145 minus 76.32 should check out. Okay, let's talk about the multiplying one. It starts off as 12.3. Oops, let's use this one. 12.3. There we go. Times 14.2. Okay. So, with no operation between this and parentheses around both of them, you're multiplying. So we're going to line this up. The decimal points do not actually have to line up here. You just want to stack them up. And then we're going to try to distribute the 3 to everything, and the 4 to everything, and the 1 to everything. So starting with the 3, it's 3 times 3. Then 2 times 3, and then 1 times 3. Distribute the 3 to all the numbers on the top. Ignore the decimal.
Walker.
Yeah.
Miss Walker.
It's supposed to be 14.2.
Was it? Let me see. 14, yeah. 14. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay, let's try it again. So now 6. 2 times 2 is 4. 1 times 2 is 2. All right, thank you. The 2 is done. You can ignore it. You've distributed it to everything up here. And now we're going to go to the next set. We're going to distribute the 4 to everything. So 4 times 3 is 12. When you go to write this next set, you got to make sure you are lined up underneath the number that you are multiplying. So if you're multiplying the 4, you should be writing in the tens place where the 4 is. That means put a 0 here and hold your place. Carry that 1 from the 4 times 3. Then do 2 times 4, which is 8, plus the 1. And then 1 times 4 is 4. And that takes care of the 4. Move yourself over twice now, because we're about to start this number here, which is in the hundredths place, so we need to be lined up under there, and then do the same process. 3 times 1, 2 times 1, and 1 times 1. Okay, once you multiply it all out, just add it up just like you would whole numbers, still ignoring the decimals. So 6 gets brought down, 4 plus 2 is 6. Then we have 11 plus 3 is 14. 5 plus 2 is 7. And then 1. So here's our answer. If this were whole numbers, we'd be done. Now we need to go and place our decimal point. So I had 1 digit after my decimal in the first factor, and I have 1 digit after my decimal in my second factor. Oops, got ahead of myself. So altogether, I need to place 2 numbers, 2 digits after my decimal in my answer. So counting from the back, that means the decimal point has to go right there so that there's 2 numbers after. So my final answer is 174.66. And I'm going to check it real quick with my calculator to make sure I lined everything up right. So 12.3 times 14.2 is 174.66. All right, let me pause there. Do we have any questions about any of that before we talk about dividing? Okay. All right, so number 3 is 52.6 divided by 0.03. Let me scroll up now and let's talk about the steps. So when you're dividing decimals, you need to watch out for decimals in the divisor. The divisor is the number that you are dividing by. When you set this up for long division, like we're about to do right now, the divisor is the number that will go on the outside. It's the number you're dividing by. You can't have decimals in a divisor. If you go to do the division with the decimals, you'll probably get the right numbers, but your decimal will not be in the right spot. So you move the decimal in the divisor over to the right. Wait, let's just have it. There we go. Okay. So here I have it set up. Since I have a decimal out here on the outside in my divisor, I'm going to move it over to the right. However many times I need to put it behind the last number. That'll get rid of my decimal and create a whole number. So if I move it over twice, now it's a 3. And whatever I do to the divisor, I have to do the same thing to the inside, which is called the dividend. So I move that over twice. And in this case, since my decimals are all the way over here now, I need to hold this place with a 0. So now I've created 3 and 5,260. My decimal's way back here. But now I should be able to do this division, and my decimal will be in the right spot. So going back to the steps, I moved my decimals over. Now it says to place the decimal point in the quotient directly above the decimal point in the dividend. There's a lot of math terminology there. Basically what that means is bring your decimal up into your answer. And then divide like you would whole numbers. So we'll go through that right now. So I brought my decimal up, and then I'm going to go digit by digit, trying to divide one by one the best I can. So 3 will go into 5, so I can start right there. That goes once, which is 3. 1 times 3 is 3. Subtract, then bring down. With long division, it's always these steps. Divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. So then I'm going to restart the process. So I'm looking to divide 3 into 22. 22 divided by 3 will go 7 times. That's the divide step. Then multiply. 7 times 3 is 21. Subtract. Then bring down. And do it again. 3 will go into 16 5 times. That's the divide step. Then multiply. 5 times 3 is 15. Subtract. And bring down. Then 3 will go into 10 3 times. That's the divide. Multiply. 3 times 3 is 9. Subtract. And it looks like I'm going to have to add some zeros here. Since I did not get a 0 remainder right here, I have to continue this process to see what's going to happen now. So I'm going to extend this out. And remember, you can add zeros as much as you want after your decimal. And I'm going to try to continue my process. So again, 3 goes into 10 3 times, which is 9. Left over. And what's going to happen? What's happening here? Anyone?
It's gonna repeat.
It's going to repeat. So once I see that, obviously I'm not going to keep going. It's going to repeat forever. Once I see that, I stop and I put a bar over whatever repeats. And that's it. If the homework or your quiz or test required you to round this off, you round it. Otherwise, indicate it with this bar. To round a repeating decimal, let's talk about that. Since we know that 3 goes on and on and on, I could really just keep writing them. That'll go forever. So if they ask you to round this, let's say to the nearest 10th, you want to first figure out where is the 10th place. 10th place is the first number, the first digit after the decimal. You have to identify the place value that they are asking for first, and then you look to the right. Just one digit to the right. So all these other 3s we just ignore, and everything else to the left we're going to ignore right now. This number here tells you what to do to the underlined digit. When this is 4 or less, the underlined digit stays. When this is 5 or more, the underlined digit goes up. So since this is less, we're going to keep that 3.
Can you share your screen again, Ms. Walker? My phone keeps like closing.
No problem.
Right on the most important part of it, it keeps closing.
No problem. That's always the way.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay. So let me just backtrack one sec. So if they want tenths, here's my tenths. Right to the right of it, 4 or less means you keep this underlined number the same, and then you can discard everything else. So here's my final answer if I rounded it to the tenths. And again, just whatever they're asking for, just pay attention to that. Any questions so far? Especially with the division, that's the part that people struggle with the most.
It says round. You said round to the tenth, so 5 or better, it would have been 4.
Yep. Yeah, let me.
4 or less, it stays where it is. Okay.
Yes. You got it. If it had been this, let's say this was happening. If it had been this rounded to the tenths, the 3 is what's being rounded, but the 6 would have bumped that up. And then you would have had a 4, and then discard the rest.
How do you show that you rounded it up? You don't. You just put it as a 4. It'll instruct you in instructions like to round to the tenths around when you're doing the question or something.
Yeah, it won't say round up. It won't say round down. It'll just say round to the whatever place value. So round to the tenths or round to the hundredths, whatever that. It's called. Okay. It's rounding. It ends up going up because the 3 goes up to a 4.
Yeah, because of the 6.
Yeah. And then you end up rounding this down because these 3s then get discarded and they become zeros, so that becomes a little bit less. But as far as this part here, you don't actually decrease, which is what some people want to do. You don't make the 3 a 2.
No.
You keep the 3 a 3.
No, you leave the 3 alone.
Right. Okay. Anything else?
No, yeah. My question was that is you would only round it or whatever. You put the bar on there to show that it's a repetitive number, but you only round it if it tells you that in the question, right?
Yes, that's right. Okay. So we're going to do a few word problems. Let's see here. And then we should be done pretty early for today. So let's see here. A new company spent $10,399.74 on 27 iPads for their employees. How much did each iPad cost? All right, so let's try to break this down. I see a total, and I see how much, or I see that they bought 27 of them, and they want to know how much each cost. Each in a problem like this indicates division. So I'm going to want to divide this. So in a question like this and on your homework when you're doing the word problems, here's what I'm looking for you to do. Set it up somehow. Either write it like that, or simply write it out like this, so that I know, I can clearly see that you knew to divide. And then from there, for something like this, because these numbers are enormous that you're working with right now, if you plug it in right into your calculator, I'm fine with that. So I plugged in $10,399.74 divided by 27, and I got that 385.17, and then the 5 looks like it's repeating. Seven, 5. My calculator and a lot of calculators round on the final digit on their display, but that is not where this number actually ends. If you see a whole bunch of 5s, that means it's repeating. The calculator just can't display it that way. So here's my answer. So in a case like this, kind of going back to what you just asked me, Aaron, even though they didn't tell me to, I'm going to take it upon myself to round this off because we're talking about money now. So
Yeah.
if this were money,
Yeah, you're talking about money.
yeah, if this were money, I would not include the 5. So I'm going to round this off to that place value. So how much money would this be?
$385.18.
That's right. So to put a final cap on all of this, when you're doing just straight calculation problems, round them if they ask you to. When you're working with word problems, take the context into account and round it appropriately. All right.
If it wasn't money, we would leave it at 175 with a line over the 5.
Yeah, right? Yeah, I would. I would give the full answer if it wasn't something like money. Okay, here's number 2. Last week at the gas station where you work, you sold 200 gallons of fuel. The station paid $1.24 per gallon for the fuel and then sold it for $1.49 per gallon. What profit did the station make on diesel fuel last week? So first, to get this started, I'm going to start by just jotting down all the information I know and organizing all of that. So they sold 200 gallons. They paid $1.24 per gallon.
Come on, you're writing this stuff.
Did your screen go off again?
No, it's still showing me the word problem.
Yeah, that's all I have up so far.
Okay.
I'm just writing down my step. And then they turned around and sold it for $1.49. Question wants to know how much profit. Okay, so back to here. You can do this 2 different ways, actually. First way that comes to mind for me is let's figure out how much they paid for it. Let's figure out how much they sold it for, so we can determine the profit that they made. That's one way of doing it. So I'm gonna go with that first. So method 1, if they paid $1.24 per gallon, that means per each gallon for 1 gallon, but they bought all 200. I have to multiply that together to figure out how much it cost them just to buy it outright. So $1.24 times 200 is $2.48. That's their upfront cost. Then they turned around and sold the same 200 gallons to customers for $1.49 each for 1. So $1.49 times 200 gave me $2.98. You can see that. How much profit did they make? Profit is the money that they get to keep. So it cost them this much, then they made this much. So their profit would be what?
$50.
$50. The difference between those 2 amounts. Okay, that's one way you could have done it. The other way you could have done it, if you were thinking something different, is we could have started off right off the bat by figuring out how much profit they make per gallon, just doing everything in the reverse order. So we could have subtracted $1.49 and $1.24 to figure out the profit that they make just for 1 gallon.
And then multiply it times 200.
Yep, and then multiply by 200. So they make 25 cents per gallon. And then multiply that by 200. You still get the same thing. Two different ways of going about it. The reason I show you both is just to make the point that you might see a method that's different than someone else, but they both might be mathematically sound. There's usually more than one right way to do things in math. So carry your strategy all the way through, check it, see if it makes sense. And then go ahead and check it in the back and make sure that it's correct. Okay. Let's do the next one. So you just bought a dog and you need to install a fence around your yard. The yard is rectangular and is 35.8 feet wide by 55.4 feet long. About how many feet of fencing should you buy to enclose the whole yard? So in a case like this, first I'm going to jot down the information, and then I'm going to draw this out. Anytime I'm given shapes in the problem, I try to draw it out so I can visually see what's going on. So we've got 35.8 feet for the width and 55.4 feet for the length. And then we need to know how much fence do we need.
I got a question.
Yep.
Since they said it was rectangular, you gotta do 235 times 8, and then 254 times 4s, and then add them together. Is that one way?
That's exactly it. Yep. That's exactly what you have to do. So for me, for other people, it might be easier to see what he's talking about visually if you draw it. So what he's saying is if this side is 55.4 feet, for example, then this one is too. So there's 2 of them. If this one is 35.8, so is this one. So there's 2 of them also. So if you need to enclose the entire yard, which is part of the key to this problem, you have to make sure that you include all 4. So in this case, since you're putting a fence around the outside of it, you're going to multiply each of these measurements by 2. And then add it up, because we're talking about perimeter in a problem like this. You wouldn't multiply 55.4 times 35.8 if that's something you were thinking, because that would give you all the space inside this, and that would be area. We're not putting grass seed down around the whole entire thing. We're putting a fence just around the outline. That's addition. That's perimeter. So let's finish this out and let's see what we get. 55.4 times 2 is 110.8. 35.8 times 2 is 71.6. And so the total I'm getting is 182.4. So that That's the exact answer. Now, if I were to really actually go and buy fence for this, would you go and ask the guy for 182.4 feet of fencing? Probably not. That means you would have to be perfect when you install that. So I would round that up. I would, even though the rounding rules would actually tell me to buy 182, because the 4 or less would round down. If I did that, I'd be short. I would round this up, and I'd buy at least 183.
I got one more question.
Yeah.
In problems like this word problem, like the key word in this problem is the yard is rectangular. To give you an idea of how you work out the math on them when you're dealing with like shapes and stuff or whatever.
Yeah, usually. This problem in particular could have been any shape other than a circle. It could have been some craziness, like whatever. Like you can still put a fence around something like that. Just add up all your sides. Finding area of something like this would be awful, but it could be done. So for me, just as a general note of advice, I take all of the information into account. I write down the numbers that they give me. I label everything. I make sure I jot down the question, because things like entire yard make a difference. And then if I have a shape given to me, like they told me it was rectangular, I do try to draw it out because it's helpful for me as a visual learner.
Sure.
Okay. All right, we got a couple more, and then that should do it. All right. Go ahead. So, did you have a question?
No, I can't find page 18. I got my papers all out of order.
Oh, okay. All right, so it says here, the Zippy Lube business where you work printed coupon offering $8 off any oil change. An oil change costs $19.85 and a new oil filter is $4.35. Customer comes in with a coupon and it has you change the oil and filter before any tax. How much should you charge? All right, so this is pretty straightforward. I'm just going to jot down the information real quick. They have a $8 coupon. Oil change is $19.85, and filter is $4.35. Okay. So first, let's figure out how much we charge them, and then we'll take the coupon off. So we're going to add up these two right here. $19.85 and $4.35. Is $24.20. So minus the $8 coupon is
$16.20.
Right. 24 minus 8, $16.20. That's it. That's literally it. If you've ever been to the store before in your entire life, I'm sure you'd be able to figure something like that one out. That one's not too bad. Let's talk about number 5. Your medical practice needs to order 500 insulin syringes. At medical supply store, they charge 60 cents per syringe. And the same ones on the internet are 55 cents a syringe plus $15.95 for shipping. What will be the lowest cost to get these 500 insulin syringes? So we have to order 500 of them. We have an option of 60 cents per syringe, or 55 cents per syringe plus $15.95 for shipping and handling. All right, so let's compare the price. If it's 60 cents each, we're going to multiply that. Okay, so that will cost us $300. Over here, it's 55 cents each. We're buying 500. So multiply that. That'll cost us $275. But then the shipping and handling is a one-time charge, so we'll add that on.
$90.95.
Okay. All right, so they're close, but this one is the better option. Okay, last one. Phil injects 38 units of insulin each day for a week. Each unit is 0.01 cc's, which is read as cubic centimeters. How many cc's of, that's supposed to say of, how many cc's of insulin does he use in a week? All right, so 38 units per day, and he's doing it for 1 week. Each unit is 0.01 cc. And they want to know how much will he use in that whole week. Okay, let's break it down. So the first thought I see when I look at all of this information is if he's using 38 units per day, and each unit is the cc's, actually how many, that's what the question's asking. If this is how many units he uses, and each unit is this many cc's, we need to multiply the cc's times the units to figure out how many cc's he uses per day instead. We need to change this from units to cubic centimeters. Okay, that's my first step. Okay, so again, 38 units times that many cc's per unit. Each unit, 1 unit is that, means that this is how many he's going to take per day. And then he's taking it for a week. So then I need to multiply that by the number of days he's taking it. And that's it.
Yeah, that was wrong.
Okay, that's the last question to wrap up this lesson right now. So let me ask everybody, do we have any questions about what we just did today first? Okay. Then let me go real quick before you guys hang up with me, let's talk about this real quick. So here is your tracking calendar. Today is the 2nd. This is what we just did. Here's new homework that'll be due next week. So if you're all caught up with your homework, keep going so you don't get behind. There's another 2 sections in the textbook and a section in the workbook, which covers decimals, due next week. Now, as a heads up, on Thursday, you've got your first quiz scheduled. So here's how we're going to work this. There's going to be a quiz posted on Blackboard. It's actually going to open up before class time. I'm going to give you guys between the time it opens, and I'll send you an email. It's going to be right after this class is over. From now until next class, which is Thursday, to take quiz 1. So do not wait to take this quiz. Take this quiz before class, because during class time then we're talking about these sections on Skype. Does that make sense? Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay, the quiz, by the way, is going to cover everything we talked about prior to Thursday. So it's going to be on problem solving, integers, and decimals. But it's going to be short. It's only about 6 questions long. So just make sure you get it done. It will be posted in Blackboard in content. Make sure you get that done before Thursday. And if you guys have nothing else for me, we're done for today.
So the homework is decimals, and we got a quiz. I'm sorry, I had to walk away for a second.
Yep, that's fine. Yeah, here's your new homework right here. These are the sections we did today. It's not due till next week though, but if you want to get a head start, these are the new sections. And the quiz will be posted in Blackboard in content. Try to get that done before class on Thursday.
Okay.
All right.